reports of a chimp on the loose in Santa Fe. The New York Times even writing about it, and social media has even created accounts for the Santa Fe monkey. Our Melissa Correa is learning about some new information in the search now.
Recently, a video was uploaded, and within seconds, everything changed. In the woods near Santa Fe, Texas, a local hiker captured footage of something moving swiftly through the trees. It wasn't just the speed of the creature that startled viewers. It was the size, the way it moved, and the eerie moment it paused, as if it noticed the camera, before slipping silently into the shadows. Only glimpses of dark fur, long limbs, a movement so fluid and controlled that many viewers began to question whether this could be the clearest Bigfoot sighting of the year. And yet, the media barely noticed. The case no one wanted to name. When the initial reports began trickling in, local news outlets approached the situation with noticeable restraint. The headlines didn't scream of panic or mystery. Instead, they stuck to vague terms. Most described the event as a search for a possible chimpanzee that had gone missing. They reported it like any other lost animal case, as if this were just another exotic pet that had slipped away unnoticed. Animal Control confirmed that they had, in fact, received multiple calls. These calls described a large animal seen wandering in the area, and officials speculated that it might be a loose primate.
We've talked to 3 people who seem like viable sources that it could have happened, and it sounds more like it was a smaller animal, so maybe a capuchin or maybe a spider monkey. I mean, it could be a raccoon standing on 2 legs, I don't know.
But even in their public statements, there was a strange vagueness. Just quiet suggestions that maybe, just maybe, someone had lost a monkey. But for the people living in Santa Fe who saw the creature with their own eyes, those explanations didn't sit right. Yet interestingly, they didn't jump to the word Bigfoot either. Instead, they used the language they had available, words that felt safer, more believable, more grounded in their reality. One woman described it simply as a big monkey. It was the closest term she could use to express something that, quite frankly, didn't make sense to her. Her husband, who briefly saw the creature after she called him to the window, described it in even more unsettling terms. He said it looked like a person, but bigger. That single phrase carries enormous weight when placed in the context of cryptid history. Despite those chilling similarities to traditional Bigfoot sightings, the towering figure, the human-like shape, the powerful presence, nobody involved dared to actually say the word Bigfoot. This wasn't just about avoiding sensationalism, it was about avoiding ridicule. The moment someone mentions Bigfoot, the story shifts from curiosity to comedy.
Through the window and I see it's in there. It was a monkey, a big one.
Eyewitnesses lose credibility. The public tunes out, and the mystery is buried beneath laughter and mockery. So instead, everyone chose silence. Or at the very least, they chose safer labels. And by doing that, they may have preserved the seriousness of the event, while also leaving the door wide open to deeper, unspoken possibilities. The night it all began. To make sense of the recent footage and the renewed whispers around Santa Fe, Texas, we need to go back several years. The strange chain of events began on a stormy night in 2019, a night that many would forget, but one that Patricia would remember for the rest of her life. That night, the sky above Santa Fe was alive with thunder. Lightning streaked across the horizon. Rain battered rooftops in steady, unrelenting sheets. Most residents stayed in bed, lulled back to sleep by the storm outside. Patricia did not. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, she found herself awake. Something had unsettled her. She couldn't explain what drew her attention, but she felt compelled to look out the window. What she saw next stunned her. In her yard, illuminated only by occasional flashes of lightning, stood a figure, not crouched, not moving around on all fours like a dog or a raccoon. It was just standing. Patricia didn't scream. She didn't run. She stood there, frozen, unable to process what she was seeing. It wasn't fear that gripped her. It was confusing. Later, when describing the incident to reporters, Patricia didn't try to assign it a specific name. She didn't claim it was Bigfoot. She didn't even use the word cryptid. Instead, she simply said it looked like a monkey, but massive. She raised her arms high above her head to show how tall it was. Her gesture said more than words ever could. This wasn't a little monkey climbing on fences. This was something far more imposing. But the most telling detail came when she demonstrated the way the creature looked around. She didn't just mimic it with her neck. Her whole upper body turned, twisting slowly from side to side. It was a detail easy to overlook, but it spoke volumes. Those familiar with Bigfoot descriptions often note the creature's unusual posture. One of the most consistent features across sightings is the lack of a pronounced neck.
Their torsos are very barrel-shaped. These are creatures that are evolved to muscle their way through the environment rather than think their way through.
Witnesses frequently describe a bulky, upright figure that turns its entire upper body when it moves its head. And that's exactly what Patricia described, without ever realizing the implications of what she was saying. As Patricia stood at her window, trying to make sense of what she was seeing, the creature outside did something unexpected. It began to move. Slowly, deliberately, it turned its head. Then its whole upper body. It wasn't just glancing around. It was surveying its surroundings with purpose, as though it was looking for something or someone. It was in that exact moment that Patricia's instincts took over. Without thinking, she reached for the curtain and closed it. She didn't scream, which might have been a natural reaction. She didn't call out to her husband immediately or try to grab a camera. She hid, quietly, like prey. That single action raised an unsettling question. Why would someone feel compelled to hide from what they believed was just a monkey? After all, if you saw a large dog or even a wild deer in your yard, your first reaction probably wouldn't be fear. You might even be curious. You might call someone else over to see, but Patricia's reaction was different. It wasn't excitement or wonder, it was silent dread. Something in her subconscious seemed to understand that whatever this creature was, it wasn't just a curious animal that had wandered too far from home. After gathering herself, she opened the curtain again and looked back outside, but it was already gone. Her husband, now awake, managed to catch only the briefest glimpse of something moving away, but what he saw was enough. He didn't see fur or paws or a tail. He saw something upright, something huge. He said it looked like a person, but larger. Not long after Patricia's encounter, a local news station picked up the story. But rather than reporting it as a strange or unexplained event, the station grounded the incident in something simple. A pet had gone missing. Specifically, they noted that a capuchin monkey had recently been declared lost in the area. On the surface, that explanation seemed convenient. Capuchins are exotic, clever, and small enough to escape unnoticed. They're known for their intelligence and agility. To the average viewer, the headline, "Missing Monkey in Santa Fe," was enough to explain away the strange sighting. But the problem was, the creature Patricia saw was nothing like a capuchin. Capuchins typically weigh anywhere between 3 to 9 pounds. They're about the size of a house cat, with expressive faces and long tails. While they can move quickly and even stand upright for short periods, their appearance is unmistakably small, light, and harmless. What Patricia described was the opposite. She recalled a towering figure, broad shoulders, powerful limbs, something that stood tall and moved with the presence of something much more substantial. Her husband backed her up completely. He hadn't seen it for long, but what he did see confirmed one thing. This wasn't a pet, it wasn't a monkey, and yet, in every news segment, the language stayed carefully vague.
He tried to find something in there, and then he looked over there, and then he tried to look over there and unclose the curtain. I don't want to see over there and see me.
Anchors talked about a loose primate or an escaped monkey. But no one ever mentioned Bigfoot, not once. Something big was out there, and no one was willing to call it by name. More than one witness. As the early morning light crept over Santa Fe, the mystery from the night before didn't fade. In fact, it deepened. Later that same morning, A second resident reached out to authorities with a report eerily similar to Patricia's. This caller, who chose to remain unidentified, claimed to have seen a large, unusual figure in the same general area. It wasn't just similar, it was nearly identical. That made two separate sightings in one night. Two different people, with no connection to each other, seeing the same kind of creature within hours, in the same town, possibly even the same neighborhood. This wasn't an isolated hallucination or an exaggerated story. This was a pattern beginning to form. Bayou Animal Services, the agency typically responsible for collecting stray pets and responding to routine animal concerns, suddenly found itself at the center of something much stranger than usual. Their role in the community had always been clear. Catch lost dogs, rescue injured birds, handle the everyday messiness of coexisting with wildlife. But this case didn't fit any of those boxes. Shortly after these reports came in, Bayou Animal Services issued a formal warning to the public. The notice advised residents to stay alert and to be cautious while outdoors. Specifically, they warned people not to approach the creature if they saw it. Reports had already begun to surface of the figure startling individuals who were out walking their dogs, often lurking just out of sight, watching, but never fully revealing itself. The message from officials was clear. Do not engage. Do not attempt to investigate. Stay indoors. Something wasn't right. As news of the mysterious creature began to spread, residents of Santa Fe started noticing another unsettling pattern. Cats were disappearing. At first, it was just a few. A neighbor's tabby went missing. Then another resident posted about their missing calico. One or two pets gone could be dismissed as coincidence. Animals sometimes wander, especially in semi-rural neighborhoods. But soon, the numbers became too strange to ignore. House cats that had never strayed far from home were vanishing without a trace. They didn't return. There were no signs of struggle. No fur on the lawn, no blood trails, no remains found on the side of the road. They were simply gone. The disappearances, which seemed to spike in the same week as the strange sightings, left residents with questions that no one could answer. People began to wonder aloud, could these missing animals be connected to whatever was spotted that night? When officials can't explain it. By the following day, September 11, 2019, the growing tension around the strange sightings in Santa Fe had become impossible for officials to ignore. Residents were talking, reports were circulating, and speculation was spreading fast.
Well, I was a little cautious last night, and I didn't go too far because I didn't want to, encounter this chimpanzee or monkey.
The pressure to acknowledge the incident publicly was mounting. That's when Sarah Haywood, the director of Bayou Animal Services, stepped forward to deliver an official statement. Her agency, which usually handled stray animals, domestic pet issues, and local wildlife encounters, was now caught in the middle of a situation that had quickly spiraled beyond the ordinary. In her update, Haywood confirmed that her team had spoken directly with 3 separate witnesses. Not anonymous tips, not secondhand stories. Real people who lived in the area and claimed to have seen something large and out of place. All 3 described the same thing, a creature unlike anything they'd ever encountered before. She explained that each of the witnesses gave consistent descriptions. This detail alone raised serious questions because the native wildlife in Santa Fe simply doesn't behave like that. They don't stand or walk on 2 legs for any sustained amount of time. And yet, here was a creature moving through neighborhoods as if it belonged in a pair of boots. Haywood did not try to dismiss what the witnesses saw. She didn't chalk it up to confusion or hysteria. In fact, she went so far as to publicly state that the creature they were describing didn't match any known species typically found in the area. Her tone, however, remained cautious. She speculated that it could have been a large primate, possibly a chimpanzee. She even suggested it might be an exotic pet that had escaped captivity, something that occasionally happens, especially in areas where people privately keep wild animals. But there was a major problem with that explanation. No exotic pets had been reported missing. Oddly enough, The most telling part of Haywood's statement wasn't found in what she said, but in what she left unsaid. Throughout her entire update, there was a noticeable absence of one specific word. A word that could have shifted the tone of the entire story. A word that, had it been spoken aloud, would have transformed the local conversation into a national punchline. Bigfoot.
There are 7 documented Sasquatch sighting reports from Utah County, which is where Provo, Utah is. There are probably 700 that we've never heard about.
Despite the fact that the creature's description aligned almost perfectly with decades of reported Bigfoot sightings, large frame, upright movement, lack of visible neck, dark fur, human-like posture, the word remained conspicuously absent from every official account. It wasn't because the similarities weren't there. They were undeniable. Anyone familiar with Bigfoot lore could have pointed them out immediately, but the choice not to speak the name was deliberate. Because the moment a public official uses the word Bigfoot, the dynamic changes. The credibility of the witnesses begins to erode. The seriousness of the incident evaporates, and the event itself is reduced to late-night comedy fodder or sensationalist TV segments. Two beasts, not one. As investigators and enthusiasts began to piece together the strange chain of events in Santa Fe, a new theory quietly began to emerge, one that challenged the assumption that only a single creature was involved. What if there weren't just one, but 2 unknown beings roaming the area that night? The idea didn't come out of thin air. It came directly from Patricia's testimony. She had described the figure in her yard as moving slowly, deliberately, turning its whole body rather than just its head. But more than that, she described the creature's behavior as strangely alert, like it wasn't just pacing or passing through. It was scanning, looking from one side of the yard to the other, as though it were searching. That observation led to a compelling hypothesis. Perhaps the creature Patricia saw wasn't alone. Perhaps it was a parent, a guardian, a larger adult, desperately seeking a younger companion that had gone missing during the violent storm. If that was true, then the sighting wasn't just a random encounter. It was a moment of crisis. A frantic search in an unfamiliar environment made more urgent by flashing lightning, loud thunder, and unfamiliar human structures. The theory continued to grow in credibility the more it was discussed. The idea of a mother, Bigfoot, lost, confused, and frightened, frantically trying to locate her child resonated with those who had studied similar cryptid encounters. It explained why the creature remained visible for so long, why it lingered near homes, why it appeared agitated but didn't lash out. It also clarified one of the strangest aspects of the sightings, the fact that the creature never acted aggressively. Despite being seen by multiple people, despite seemingly being aware of their presence, it never approached, never charged, never made a sound. A town kept in the dark. As word of the sighting spread, confusion took root. Local headlines, which had initially covered the story with caution, began to drift into chaos. Reporters struggled to settle on a consistent description of the creature. Even Sarah Haywood seemed unsure.
We are going to take it seriously. We are going to make sure that we do our due diligence. We have searched the area. We still have people searching the area. And if we see another, or if we hear of another sighting, we'll go out and...
During her update, she made an offhand comment suggesting that maybe, just maybe, it had been a raccoon standing on 2 legs. No one took that seriously. It was clear that something strange was happening in Santa Fe, but no one, not the reporters, not the animal control officers, not the officials, could or would name it. The result was a growing fog of uncertainty. Residents began to whisper about what was really going on. Was this a cover-up? Was there a deliberate effort to keep the story vague? Or was everyone, reporters and officials alike, simply at a loss? On the same day that Sarah Haywood gave her public update, Bayou Animal Services released a formal warning directed at the public. And it wasn't just a casual suggestion, it was urgent. The message was simple. Don't try to help. Don't try to investigate. Don't approach the animal. Instead, residents were told to stay indoors and leave the matter to professionals. According to the announcement, A certified primate recovery team had already been deployed. They were described as specialists, trained to handle situations like this. But beyond that, no further details were given. They were just referred to as a certified team. That's it. To some, that sounded official, like the matter was being taken seriously. But to others, it sounded like a dead end. Without transparency, without documentation, and without results, the so-called certified team quickly became just another mystery in a case already packed with questions. And for the residents still wondering what they saw that night, the warning not to get involved didn't bring comfort. It brought suspicion. Could Bigfoot survive here? To understand the possibility of a creature like Bigfoot existing in or near Santa Fe, Texas, it's important to first examine the environment. Santa Fe isn't nestled in the wilderness. It's not a mountain town or a forested outpost where thick woods blanket the land for miles. In fact, it's surrounded by neighborhoods, intersected by paved roads, and broken up by farmland, small businesses, and residential developments. From a surface-level glance, this might seem like an unlikely place for any elusive creature, especially one as large as what was reportedly seen to remain hidden. The nearest major wilderness areas are quite far from Santa Fe. Sam Houston National Forest and the Big Thicket National Preserve are both located well beyond the Houston metropolitan area. A creature attempting to migrate between these spaces would need to navigate suburban streets, highways, and industrial zones, a daunting task for any wildlife, let alone something as conspicuous as a large bipedal primate. Yet, when we zoom in closer, the picture becomes more complex. Near Santa Fe lie two smaller, but still significant pockets of wild land: the Brazoria National Wildlife Refuge and the San Bernard National Wildlife Refuge. Combined, these protected areas offer more than 25,000 acres of wetlands, thick brush, and difficult-to-reach terrain. The kind of places where human foot traffic is rare and visibility is limited. These areas are not empty. They support thriving ecosystems, including bobcats, deer, wild hogs, and even alligators. The land is harsh, swampy, and in many cases nearly impenetrable without specialized gear. Could something intelligent, cautious, and highly adaptive hide in terrain like this? The answer isn't a definitive yes, but it's certainly not a no either.
Always looking out in the trees,
We're going to think it's still there, until they find it. When they find it, we're going to be in peace.
These refuges may not have the vastness of a mountain range, but they do offer what many species need most: shelter, food, water, and isolation. And if the creature in question is anything like what eyewitnesses described, stealthy, observant, and capable of moving through both wild and suburban spaces, then these lands might be more than enough to sustain it. In recent years, more and more sightings have emerged from areas that aren't nearly so remote: suburban neighborhoods, edge-of-town parks, narrow green belts between communities. The sightings in Santa Fe seem to fall into that newer pattern, and it raises a simple question: if raccoons, coyotes, and even large predators like mountain lions have learned how to survive in and around human development, why not something even more intelligent? Many animals have adapted to urban life with astonishing efficiency. They learn our patterns, they avoid our lights, they travel under the cover of night, slipping through fences and across roads unseen. They don't need endless wilderness, they need silence, cover, time. If Bigfoot, whatever it is as smart and stealthy as believers have long suggested, it might not require vast forests at all. Just enough room to move, enough cover to hide, enough distance to watch. There's a question that haunts nearly every cryptid sighting, no matter where it takes place. Why don't more people come forward? Why do so many encounters go unreported? The answer may have less to do with fear of the creature and more to do with fear of disbelief. A mystery left hanging. Today, no creature has been found. No primate team has shared a report. No pet monkey has been recovered. And now, with new footage surfacing online, the questions come rushing back. What is it? Why hasn't the media followed up? And why does it feel like someone doesn't want us to look any closer? Whatever you believe, something happened in Santa Fe. Something no one wants to talk about. Something we're not supposed to see.